legislative, bossing them around like a dictator, threatening people who have valiantly leaked information of government involvement in the attacks. This is from the Washington Post. Probe of Hill leaks on 911 is intensified. So think about it, folks. We have the CIA following al-Qaeda out of the country and then making sure that the U.S. embassies gave them visas back in, and the House and Senate leaked this information. They leaked the fact that the NSA got warnings, specific warnings of attacks coming against the World Trade Center. And what does the government do? They go and threaten people in Congress with arrest and try to make them take lie detector tests so they can charge them with treason. The legislative is supposedly separate from the executive and just as powerful. But that's not happening. Now, under the name of protecting the homeland, people shouldn't leak that the executive ran the attacks. Think about that. I mean, you couldn't write a science fiction book. You couldn't write a novel. You couldn't write a spy thriller like this. People wouldn't believe it. And on top of this, what did Dick Cheney, what did George Bush, what did other CIA pumps and minions say on the news? They said publicly, if you frustrate us and divert us with congressional investigations of government prior knowledge and involvement, if you do this, you are ensuring another attack. Dick Cheney said it on Meet the Press. This is out of the London Guardian. Prepare for attack, Cheney tells U.S., perhaps nuclear. He said a bigger attack is a sure thing, not a question of if, but when. Think about that. He specifically said on television, if you continue to frustrate and divert us with these investigations of prior knowledge, you're ensuring an even larger attack. Folks, it took them 72 hours to even cover part of the information. I'm trying to do it here in this tour de force, this rambling rampage in 2 hours. But U.S. government officials, former officers, a U.S. Air Force officer, U.S. Air Force captain met and said the evidence is clear. The U.S. government carried out the attack. This is a mainstream national Portugal newspaper covering a 72-hour press conference. 72 hours to show the evidence. Just go to Infowars.com, look at the government prior knowledge section. I want you to see all of it. Throughout this film, I've been telling you to check out the information we're bringing forward. That's because it's only the tip of the iceberg, and I want you to know without a shadow of a doubt, the information we're bringing forward is documented. You and your family are under attack. World government controls America, and they engineered September 11th to get a police state agenda through. So stand up against them. Now let's go through this quick now. Taliban melt away before army sweep. London Guardian. What happened? Well, the commander of the biggest U.S. search for Taliban and al-Qaeda fugitives, Colonel James Huggins, commanding officer of the 3rd Brigade Task Force of the 82nd Airborne Division, said that every time they went into a village, people had been warned to escape. The Taliban and al-Qaeda, it was clear, had people on the inside warning them of when Special Forces Command was going to be sending an operation. In fact, I saw a story in the San Francisco Chronicle where a top Air Force general said, what's going on here? We have top al-Qaeda on our sites 10 times. Their convoys, Mullah Omar and others. And every time we did, every time we requested authorization from the CIA to bomb, just like Vietnam, they wouldn't let them do it. That was because that was their operatives, their al-Qaeda, their Taliban, who were sent in to destabilize and to give the U.S. a pretext to move in and take control of the oil fields. And we have other evidence. 6,000 Taliban and al-Qaeda were flown out to safety as Kandahar fell, as the capital of Taliban and al-Qaeda operations fell. 6,000 Taliban and al-Qaeda leaders were flown out to safety into Pakistan with the Pakistani ISI chief, the same guy who had been meeting with the heads of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees on the morning of September 11th over breakfast. The same House and Senate Intelligence Committee chairman that issued these whitewashes. And when it came out in Fox News and the LA Times, and when it came out in the New Yorker magazine and all these different places, that the U.S. government had flown the leadership of Taliban and Al-Qaeda out to safety and dropped them off in Pakistan to then start a war with India so the Carlyle group could sell weapons to both sides, so the Bushes and bin Ladens could sell weapons to India and Pakistan, moving the war to another place, moving their troublemakers to another place, their pretext makers to another place. When that news came out, the media brought it out. The government didn't deny that they'd flown Taliban and Al-Qaeda leaders out to safety as Kandahar fell on C-130s, U.S. government aircraft, with U.S. pilots. They didn't deny that. You know what they said? They said, oh, it was an accident. Just like everything else was an accident we've covered. And you're saying, wait a minute, who are the people getting tortured at Camp X-Ray in Guantanamo Bay, or all the articles about how they fly these so-called terrorists to Egypt for torture by U.S. forces? Who are the people? It's theater, folks. They're goat herders. They're the frontline people. You heard about the Arabs in the lines behind, the little goat herders who would point guns at them and make them fight the U.S., make them fight the Northern Alliance? Those poor kids are the ones that got captured and put in these big trailers, who suffocated. 3,000 of them were massacred by U.S. and Northern Alliance communist troops. These are low-level goat herders, low-level privates, and they're getting flown all over the world to be tortured, and the media reports on it. They're just playing the part of the enemy, unwittingly, while the CIA operatives that got them to fight are living in the lap of luxury, sitting in hot tubs. It's disgusting, folks. LA Times, something I told you in my first film before this article came out. No leaders of Al-Qaeda found at Guantanamo. No leaders. They were all flown out by the U.S. government. Authorities accused the Lang WTC investigation. I already covered how the bombs were going off and how the firefighters reported 2 small fires up on the 76th to 84th floor. Their last words, bombs are going off. The government's declared national security on those tapes. Well, yeah, they better. And they've claimed national security, not on the flight recorders they say were damaged, but on the air traffic control tapes. They had 58 minutes to stop the second plane. They had 70-plus minutes to stop the Pentagon plane, but of course they didn't. Authorities accused of the Lang WTC investigation. New York Post. And who's accusing them? Engineers, fire scientist experts, victims' relatives, who yesterday marched around the White House. Mayor, September 11th records should be secret. Mayor Bloomberg, Associated Press. September 11th records should be secret. And what records is he talking about? Police dispatch tapes, firefighter dispatch tapes. Because they have been leaked now by good officers and good firefighters, confirmed, New York Daily Press and other reports, that bombs were going on. And the news has interviewed Lou Caccioli and other firefighters. The head of the firefighter union said that they were warned not to go to work that day and that bombs were going off. You know something? I've made 2 films since September 11th. And in both the emergency release, a special report I put out for limited time, and then, of course, my big official 911 The Road to Tyranny film, we're very proud of, I analyzed the USA Patriot Act. I went through the subsections. Of course, the USA Patriot Act is H.R. 3162. Congress passed it without even being able to read it. Ron Paul and others have been on the record saying that. Multiple congressmen and women have been on the record saying they were not even allowed to read it, but were just told to pass it. And the White House threatened that if there's another terrorist attack and you haven't passed this, we'll use it in local campaigns against you to say that you aided the terrorist. Ron Paul refused to pass it, saying that he was being terrorized to do it, but a majority of congressmen and women did. Now, after September 11th, I reported in both my films what H.R. 3162 did, a bill that no one in Congress was even allowed to read. I went in after the passage, got a hold of it, looked at the subsections, where it said they'd have warrantless searches of your house, your business, they'd take whatever they wanted, including records, order you not to tell anyone that they were there, that American citizens, for any crime, any misdemeanor or felony, any violation of federal or state law, would not be able to have lawyers or face our accusers or even have a trial by jury, that we could be indefinitely held. And it clearly said that the new definition of terrorism was any action that endangered human life that violated federal or state law. That was Section 802 of the USA Patriot Act. Despite the fact that I had read the legislation, I was still stunned September 5th when the Associated Press mirrored my analysis of the USA Patriot Act. And I read, from Newsday, from the Associated Press, overview of changes to legal rights.